One of my favorite recurring guests, one of your favorite recurring guests. Yes, it's Graham Couch of the Lansing State Journal. We're talking MSU hoops, MSU basketball, and hey, might even sneak a fun little World Cup question here at the end. Let's go.
Are Locked On Spartans, your daily podcast on the Michigan State Spartans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Friday or happy Saturday if you're driving up to the snowy tailgate right now. Regardless, thank you so much for making Locked On Spartans your first watch or listen every single day. And before I let this kind gentleman next to me talk, hey, today's episode is brought to you by Underdog. Sign up on UnderdogFantasy.com with promo code LOCKEDON and get your first deposit doubled up to $100. He is Graham Couch of the Lansing State Journal, the Couch and the Rude podcast. He is kind enough to donate 30 minutes of his time to join this show. And Graham, could I have asked you to join the show at a busier time in your life or in the life of a Michigan State media member with both basketball, football colliding, and then also, hey, just like you said before we started recording, women's soccer rolling as well. Was this the worst time to ask you to join?
No, I mean, I enjoy it. It's been a busy week. We're actually down a guy at the Lansing State Journal, too. Many people know Ryan Black left. And so, when you're down, you're short-staffed, and you got a lot going. It's a fun month. I enjoy it. I wouldn't want to do it every month.
Sure.
But it's sort of one of those things where the excitement of something that's new in basketball begins, and football is, the games usually most years are pretty important, and so I enjoy it. If it lingered another month, you'd be like, okay, that's enough. But if you don't enjoy this stuff, why do you do it? Like it's a sweet gig in a lot of ways.
Love that. Not running away from the grind here. We've got, one grinder of a game coming up on Saturday. Spartans versus Hoosiers, just the sexiest game on the calendar. Like, everyone's going to be tuned into this game. This is going to be awesome. But, Graham, are we dusting off the program win hats for this Saturday? Would this be qualified as a program win, or in your opinion, is this just a game where, got the 6 wins, but overall, disappointing season? So what's your vibe on if they get to 6 wins here?
Yeah, I don't think this. I think it's a program month, and I think I wrote that before the Illinois game. Like, it was a real after the Michigan game. It was a program month, and if you start 3-0 in that program month, that's really good. I think the Illinois game was a program win because that's one they weren't expected to do on the road, coming off the suspensions and everything that happened at Michigan, and so that was a program win. I think these are take care of business moments where, if you're going to be the program you want to be, you win these sort of games. And so this is one of those where you lose it, there's a lot more pain than the joy of winning it. And I don't know for these guys, the year after you go to a New Year's Six bowl game, you have an 11-2 year. There isn't great joy in making a bowl. Like, that question gets brought up to these guys a lot. I don't think that's really. And they say it's not their focus, and I kind of believe them, because it's like, well, some third, fourth tier bowl game, what does that really mean for them? Now, it's better to make it than not, but you're not going to find sort of the buzz of, yay, we might get to play in the Duke's Mayo Bowl or drive down to Detroit now or things like that. But it's good to be a winning program, and that's you've got to be an Indiana team that's lost 7 straight at home to be that.
At home, and just in miserable conditions too. I don't know. I think this is kind of a game where if you could break their morale early, get up to a 2-possession lead at the end of the first quarter, like, you got the Hoosiers on the sidelines with snow dumping down on them, 20-mile-an-hour winds, 16 degrees outside. Like, I don't know. Hopefully it could be a spirit-breaking game for fans like me perspective. But how do you feel that this shakes out? Indiana is 10-point underdogs here. They've had, of course, a litany of issues. Do you think this is going to be not an automatic, nothing's an automatic win, of course, but we're allowed to be devastated if Michigan State loses this game, right? Us fans.
Well, absolutely. But I do think that I think double digits is too much for this Michigan State football team right now in the Big Ten ever. It's not that it can't happen. It's just that, like, their offense has not shown the ability to rack up the sort of points it takes to sometimes be a double-digit winner. Like, even last week, if you had Michigan State, that would have been a backdoor cover for Rutgers. And so that, I do think that Indiana's offense has struggled at a pretty high level. But Rutgers had too. And Indiana's got a new sophomore quarterback who's got some mobility, could cause some issues there playing. And I do think that Michigan State's offense has found a little bit of rhythm in the running game, which will help. And this is a weekend where you want to do that. But I think I picked it 23-14 or something like that. And
okay.
I see it as a low scoring game. If there's anything to like, I like the under a little bit. But this is a game where you just want to get through it. And I do think you could break their spirit. You bring up a good question because, they've lost 7 straight.
Right.
And now their last 2 were against Penn State and Ohio State, and things went really badly. Do they look at this as an opportunity against more like competition? Or do they really want to be out there? And I think you test that if you can get up a score early, if you can play on the front foot, if you can run the football.
Right on. And you also brought up a good point that the run game has really blossomed here the last 2 weeks. And, you've also written columns about this ever since Xavier Henderson has been back. The defense has shown improvement as well. In this month of November, I know it's a short sample size, just 2 games. But with that said, what's been the most impressive part of this month for you? Is it the run game? Is it the defense? Or is it just having your head screwed on tight enough to not let all the outside distractions funnel into the game?
Yeah. Well, I think it's been a team that had a chance for the wheels to come off this season.
Totally.
Has not let that happen. And I think that's just a sign of good culture and leadership and character in your program. And so there's some pride there. And then, there's guys who are, there's no doubt that Xavier Henderson, Jacob Slade, those guys returning, Jaden Reed being at full health has changed things. But the fact that they're improving late in the year rather than the other way in a tough season, I think is a really good sign, because what happened last year created this false sense of where the rebuild was. And I think everybody kind of knew that it might not be another 10-2, 11-2 year, but the Minnesota game was jarring. Like, it wasn't just the Washington game when they were without people. In hindsight, I was a total idiot. I should literally be fired for thinking that they could beat Washington in hindsight without Xavier Henderson, Jacob Slade, and Jaden Reed. Like, what are we doing? Like that on the road,
I'm with
Washington, Michael Penn, that had no shot. That game isn't even a problem for me the way that went down. And then you go to, but the Minnesota game is one where they didn't compete and they were just thoroughly beaten on both sides. And that should never be the case at home against a Minnesota program that's depth of talent shouldn't be that much better than you to that point. Right. And so, to me, that they had that sort of game, and yet that wasn't the game that defined the season and sort of said this is what it's going to be, I think was really important.
And with Senior Day happening this Saturday as well, let's take a peek behind the curtain, at any time that we have insiders here. I like to ask these kind of questions. Of the seniors, which one are you going to miss talking to the most? Is there any that have been super charismatic or super open, or which guy are you going to be missing the most here on this football team?
Oh, Xavier Henderson by far. I would start my own NIL deal. Yeah, I would start my own NIL deal to get him back just to do press conferences and interviews. Because it's not just that he's charismatic. It's that he says something, right?
Yeah.
Like, there are lots of guys. Shalik Calhoun used to be charismatic. But you'd listen, and then at the end of it, you listen to your recorder, and you'd be like, he actually didn't say anything. And Xavier Henderson always says something. And he's also sort of, I don't want to say he's above the coaches in this sense, but like he's not afraid to say something that maybe the coaches wouldn't say. And,
okay.
He's not afraid to put a little truth serum on things and just to explain it in layman's terms and to be real. And I am already thinking of ways. I'm like, if he could, you could have Mel Tucker on Mondays for a press conference, and then for like 5 minutes next year, this is what Mel meant. Xavier Henderson. That would be. There are not many athletes that miss in terms of that setting more than him, but I will miss Xavier Henderson because he is a great conversationalist.
Look at that. And we're going to funnel into basketball talk here in a hot second. But first, I need to say goodbye to Graham for a hot second. He'll be back, I hope. I don't know. He might hang up. Who's to say? Stay tuned to find out. How about that for a teaser? But first, I need to talk everyone's ear off about Underdog Fantasy. That's right. This episode is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy, the easiest place to spice up college football season. It's easy. It's fun. Look, you just got to pick your favorite players. They're over under on their stats. Like if you think the snow is going to impact the game on Saturday and you like the way Jalen Berger's been running the ball, well, take his over for rushing yards. If you don't think the passing game is going to be working out for Indiana, take under Dexter Williams passing yards. And then, hey, sprinkle a Keon Coleman over 0.5 touchdowns on top of that. You can win up to 10 times your money if you stack your card big enough on Underdog Fantasy. And you can also cross games as well. Let's say the Ohio State game tickles your fancy. You want to get in on TCU versus Baylor. Get nuts. Cross it over. Have some fun on Underdog Fantasy. And you know what's fun about Underdog Fantasy too is that, well, they're giving you free money. Sign up with promo code LOCKEDON. That's all one word, Locked On. And Underdog is going to double your first deposit up to $100. That's right. Deposit $100, get 100 smackaroos for free off of Underdog Fantasy's back. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com or find the Underdog Fantasy app in the App Store or the Google Play Store. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code Locked On. That's all one word. Get in on the college football pick'em action today. And would you look at that? Graham Couch is still here. This is amazing. What a time to be alive. What a Friday or Saturday or really whatever day you're listening to this. Graham Couch is known for a lot of things, but one of my favorite things that he does is after a football game or basketball game, the 3 quick takes. I got something even quicker than post-game takes. How about 3 premature takes for a basketball season? That's only 3 games into a season that's going to be 30 or 40 games long. Graham, would you like to entertain me on this and hear my 3 premature takes?
Absolutely.
I was really hoping you'd say yes because I didn't have plan B. So my first take is we've heard this a lot. In the Champions Classic, you were at the game, maybe didn't listen to the broadcast, but they kept reiterating how Michigan State doesn't have this go-to star. They don't have that guy. That's pretty rare, even for like a bad team not to have a go-to guy late in the game, let alone for a really good team to not have a go-to guy. So my take is that Michigan State's going to be okay without having a quote-unquote go-to guy. Fair? Or is that fiction?
I think it's fair this year. More than other years because they have a number of guys who are fearless and who have enough sweat equity build up and sort of it's one of my overused favorite words. But it's different. Some years you go, well, they got a number of guys who could do it, but I don't know. And I felt a little that way with the choice they made at the Gonzaga game, like when they went to Malik Hall in the final possession. I was like, see, Malik Hall is that guy with an array of moves. But I don't know if throwing it into him for the final shot is the play you want to do. And
gotcha.
It's sort of like the analytics may tell you, it's sort of like a football coach who claims, well, the numbers said we should go for 2. And you're
right.
like, I get it. I get that's what the analytics said. But like the way the momentum is going, is that really the guy you wanted to throw to in that play? I don't know if the back shoulder fade to your 5'9" guy was great. But but A.J. Hoggard heading downhill, which happened then in the Kansas game at the end of regulation. He got blocked, but I thought that was a great idea. Mm-hmm. Then the inbound execution they had on a couple different plays, and it wound up with Malik Hall, who was fine in the clutch. I think Tyson Walker with the ball in his hands, Tyson Walker or A.J. Hoggard with the ball in their hands. You have 2 guards, the ball in their hands at the end of the game, either, in Hoggard's case, driving downhill, and Walker's case creating for himself or somebody else. That gives you something that's different than some teams have. And then if from there they go to Hauser, they go to Hall or whatever, that's fine. So I don't think it's an issue. And I think they've got a number of guys who can put up, like, if you ask me who was going to lead this team in scoring, I did kind of a hot take and doubled down on it even after the Gonzaga game, said maybe Joey Hauser, because he is a guy who, while I don't think he's always going to have 23 points like he had the other night, and he may not,
sure,
he's going to have some 7, 8, 9 point games. He's going to have enough because of his game that are pushing 20. And I don't know if there's anybody else who's consistently going to be in the teens all the time that you could see that happening. But they've got a number of guys it could be. It could be Tyson Walker. Jaden Aiken's game could sort of come into its own as he gets back into things, and that could change things. I don't think it'll be Hoggard, but you never know. Like, Hoggard is you want an over-under bet. Mm-hmm. Hoggard in a prop bet right now on assists is still way over. Like the other night, I think it was 4.5, and he had 8 or 9. Like, he's always going to have 8 or 9. He gets in and he creates. So until Vegas catches up with that, that's a good play.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, no, just throwing that out there a little bit.
I like
But yeah,
that.
and they're a really good defensive team. They're not scared of the moment. They look like a group that wants to take it to you, that's been pushed around a little in their time and is done with it. And you get a veteran team like that isn't scared of the moment. Because that's really what it's about, having a go-to guy. It's about having somebody who wants the ball in that moment. And I think they've got a couple guys and their guards who want that and can make something happen with it.
And take number 2. Here I go. I might be Debbie Downer. There might be some people that aren't thrilled to hear this second take here. But look, Tuesday's game was a big win for the Hate. Izzo was right in not going to the transfer portal for another big crowd. Correct me if I'm wrong here, but are we not one Kentucky-made free throw away from the story of that game being, well, Carson Cooper and Jackson Kohler had to split nearly 10 minutes in the second half because they don't have an experienced big man behind Mady Sissoko? Like, am I crazy for my second take being that, hey, Tuesday's awesome, and yes, Mady looks like a superhero. We'll get to him in the third take, but the depth is still going to be an issue. And, well, yeah, getting a transfer portal big still probably would have been a good idea. I'm sorry to be a giant rain cloud here after such a great win, but like,
I mean, I'll play the devil's advocate here.
Please. Okay. So
a couple things. One, I don't know if they get a transfer portal big and Mady Sissoko stays. And then you're looking at, so I don't know if they get a transfer portal wing if Pierre Brooks stays. And so then whatever becomes of their careers, you lost. And they're somewhere else. And look what Michigan's going through right now with the point guard position. Well, you got to be careful. If you're unwilling to develop your guys, if you're unwilling to commit, and then you're unwilling to commit to them. In recruiting right now, Izzo has something going for him. He can walk into a room and say, if I'm recruiting you, I'm committing to you. We're going to develop you. You're going to be part of things. And that's something that he can back up and say, we haven't tried to replace guys. Now, they did bring in Tyson Walker when they looked like they were desperate at a point guard spot, and Hogard wound up being okay there, and now they have 2, and that's a blessing for them. But no doubt that right now they would be better off if they had a more seasoned backup big man. The challenge would have been bringing in somebody that was going to – nobody wants to come in and do that role. You're not going to find a guy who wants to come in and be the backup to Sissoko. And so then you would have had a surly guy who'd come in and lost the job to Sissoko probably because of the way he's playing. Or you would have had Sissoko see that and leave, which I think might have happened. And somewhere else would be like, oh, my goodness, how did we get Mady Sissoko? And I think they knew – they had a feeling a little bit that they thought Sissoko could be okay. I don't think they thought he'd be this, but they could be okay.
Yeah.
And the other thing is this isn't football, in where if they lost to Kentucky, so be it. This is a long year. Now, it's a great win. And I think it would have been crushing in certain ways. But ultimately, those 2 guys, and Kohler was better against Kentucky than he was against Gonzaga. And then Cooper gets his feet wet and he got trucked. And he's got to, but like those 2 guys by the end of February have to be capable of combining for 15 minutes. I thought something else that happened that was really important on Tuesday is Izzo did not turn to Joey Hauser as an option at the 5. So Hauser has told you with his play and with his words, I am not a center. And then what happens is he gets put at center, things go horrible, he loses his confidence, he can't, and people go, Joey Hauser stinks. No, Joey Hauser is he's not the same as Kenny Goins the year he had to play the 5, but he's not a 5. It is on you to have somebody else at the position. And Joey Hauser is, while I think more savvy than those other 2 guys and probably better in certain circumstances, you get a little more out of him at the 5. And there will be certain matchups this year. They're not going to face every game consensus All-American bigs the way they have to this point. Where playing that smaller lineup and going with them at the 5 makes a ton of sense. Yeah. But when you're facing a formidable 5, do not mess with the rest of Joey Hauser's game, because you see what happens when he's confident and shot hunting and playing the 4. And so I think that was an important discovery. You're better off with those 2 guys trying to survive. They made a gutsy decision that they didn't do against Gonzaga, where they did not bring Sissoko back in early, and it worked out. They needed him for the end of regulation, turned out overtime as well. So the key is, can those 2 guys, Cooper and Kohler, get to the point where MSU can survive with them for 15 minutes in an NCAA tournament game in March? And they've got months to get there, and chance to develop those guys, and that's what they're betting on. So I'm just playing devil's advocate. I think you obviously could have gone the other route, but there is risk in that, and you might lose a guy, and then, where are you?
So I've been sitting on that take for 3 full days now, and you just changed my mind in 3 minutes, I think. So there we go. That's just what the doctor ordered right there. We're going to get to the third take here in a hot second. We're not done talking about Mady Sissoko yet. No, you're out of your mind if you think we're done talking about him. We're going to kick off the next segment with that. Get into some World Cup action. You know what, Graham? Here's the question I'm going to ask. Which World Cup team is the comparative of Michigan State football? I have a country in my mind, but sit on that one for a hot second while I talk the people's ear off about Nugenics. That's right. We're talking Nugenics, gentlemen. Hey, remember when winning felt easy? That's because when you were younger, you were at the peak of your testosterone production, what some have called the winner's hormone or the man hormone. Wouldn't it be nice to get that winner's edge again and that old swagger back into your step? Do you want more energy to counter the negative physical effects of aging? Well, Nugenics Total T Testosterone Booster with Testofen will help you turn back the clock, re-energize your workouts, get you better results at the gym, and help you look and feel like the man that you really want to be. Nugenics Total T is the #1 selling testosterone booster at GNC. And because Nugenics Total T boosts free testosterone that the aging process robs, you'll feel stronger, leaner, with more energy and drive, and more passion too. Your partner will notice the difference. Now get a complimentary bottle of Nugenics Total T when you text COLLEGE to 231-231. Text now and get a bottle of Nugenics Thermo, their most powerful fat incinerator ever, with key ingredients to help you get back into shape fast. Absolutely free. Just text COLLEGE to 231-231. One more time. That's text COLLEGE to 231-231. Texting enrolls you in recurring automated text messages. Consent not required to purchase. Message and data rates may apply. All right, Mr. Couch, I've got my third take that I'm sitting on right here, and this is a quick take. This is going to be a fast one to get out of my mouth here. We've never seen a jump from one year to the next like Mady Sissoko has had, right? Obviously, we've seen improvements with players over time, but never like this. A guy goes from 4 or 5 minutes per game to looking like what I will always say this season, Orlando Magic Dwight Howard, all in just 1 year. Am I missing anyone? I mean, this is crazy.
Yeah, and I was trying to think about that, and just guys I remembered. It's sort of like if Edon Ebok became Xavier Tillman overnight.
Right?
It just doesn't usually happen that way. It's rare. I mean, if it's going to happen, in hindsight, you can see why. Right? Here's a guy who did not play a ton of basketball growing up, comes over from West Africa. He is a senior. He breaks his hand and doesn't play a lot that year. Then he comes into Michigan State, and it's COVID. There's no money ball. There's no summer runs. There's no like all the stuff you do to develop and get sort of into things quickly don't exist. And then he's playing behind a couple guys who he's not noticed. I mean, he had some moments last year where I thought he was okay, but you come out of the floor, you got 3 minutes to show yourself, and it's so you can understand if it's ever going to happen. Everything's set up for a guy like that. But yeah, no, it's remarkable because he's so much more calm out there, and the game has slowed down for him so much. I mean, it's things like the passes out of the post when there's traffic and it's not for him, and he fires it. I mean, that stuff. I mean, Matt Costello was late in his junior year still treating the basketball like a hot potato, and it took him a while. He had a great senior year, but Sissoko has gone from a guy that you would never throw the ball to a guy that, while he's never going to be a post option for you, is on this team your first, second, third, or fourth option. He can take advantage of a matchup. We've seen a couple turnarounds that worked. He certainly is terrific in the pick and roll, rim running downhill and comfortable in those settings. And he and both of those guards seem to have a chemistry. I've never seen anything like it.
What would have brought the house down in Indianapolis more if Jaden Akins threw down that dunk, or if Mady Sissoko completed that Euro step on the fast break? Because that was something of unicorn status right there. What would have gotten you falling out of the chair? Okay, the Euro step.
Yeah, because just seeing Sissoko on the drive, if he had, it would have been, okay, wait a second. What? Yeah, no, absolutely.
Right. That's what it looked like to me. Like, I remember like the old days where this happened maybe 2 or 3 times, but Derek Nix would steal the ball around half court and he's dribbling down fast break. And you could just hear yakety sax playing over like the loudspeaker. But like I expected the same thing when Mady was going on the fast break, and all of a sudden, like, What? Like Joel Embiid? Excuse me? Like, what? So that was I'm really trying not to get too excited.
You know the best thing about Mady Sissoko? Well, there are a lot of good things right now for Michigan State fans. Is he's only 6'8", maybe 6'9". Like, and people keep saying, well, maybe he could be an NBA player, but he's not going anywhere early.
I know.
You know, like if you can recruit, like the key to college basketball right now is kind of a team like Michigan State has. Not a lot of pros, but guys you're going to have for a long time that are really good that you can get old with before they have great careers in Europe. That's what that's sort of how you build. Now you'd like to have a couple real high end guys. You'd like to have a couple pros mixed in. But if you can, I mean, I've always said this, like Cassius Winston, you would take over just about anybody you've ever recruited in Michigan State history. Yeah. And that is the perfect player to recruit. And, you know, you get excited about a guy as a top 5 recruit, but you would take Cassius Winston over Jaren Jackson's career 100 out of 100 times. You'd take it over Miles Bridges' career 100 out of 100 times. So that is just something to keep in mind when you're roster building. Like the sweet spot to me is the guy who's ranked, 20 through 50 and is got something that's going to keep him around for a little while.
And, let's just switch sports entirely. Kind of. It'll be football and football. Look, you're somewhat of a soccer aficionado. You're you know more than the average person, and I am the epitome of an average person when it comes to soccer knowledge. Kicking off Sunday in Qatar, around probably 80,000 fans drinking the coldest beer possible that the country has to offer.
If they sell beer there, I don't know if they do on that game, but
they're not. They are not. But okay, let's say Michigan State fans want to get invested in the World Cup, and Team USA just isn't doing it for them. Is there a comparison to the Michigan State football team that you see in this field? Because I have a country in mind. I'll explain later. Or you want me to do it right now while you think a little bit? It's up to you, or you can give us your country.
Give me your country, and then I'll give you what I'm thinking.
Netherlands. Netherlands, because it's always boom or bust for them. Kind of like the last years of Michigan State, it's either like, oh yeah, we're going cotton bowling, we're going peach bowling, like we're getting 10 wins, 11 wins, or it's just a complete dud of like a 6-6 season. Like that's Netherlands. They're either like getting into the quarterfinals or they ain't making the tournament at all. Like it's boom or bust for them. So that's kind of my comparison right there.
I'll give you this. I'll give you a couple.
Okay, I like
Croatia. So Croatia finishes second in the last World Cup. Runners up, very good team.
Yeah,
they're in a group, I believe, with Belgium, with De Bruyne and all those guys, Lukaku, and great group, tough group. But nobody's talking about them. It's like it didn't happen. It's like no. Mighty Belgium is back, and all these other schools. I mean, like Croatia, or these guys were the runner-up last time, right? This is a legitimate country in world soccer. That should have some kinship with Michigan State fans. And if there's another team that I really, so the team I strangely like is Spain.
Okay.
But this is gambling related, because the thing about Spain is they have not had a number 9. They have not had a striker, but they are so good in possession. You can count on them for a few things. Unders all day, because they don't score, but neither does their opponent. And I also think they've been hearing that forever. I think they're going to score enough to win a lot of games. I think I love Spain. That's not really Michigan State related, but that's a club that I enjoy watching. And then I love De Bruyne. I love watching Belgium too, and the Brazilians and I get why Argentina is up there ranked, and it'll be my homeland country is England, so I'll pay some attention there, even though I can't stand Harry Kane because he plays for Tottenham and I hate Tottenham. But those are all things that are in my head that are different. But and obviously the U.S. is where I'd like to see them do well. I like us being a factor on the world stage. I like us being taken seriously, and we're getting more and more closer to that. And I think these are opportunities to do that.
Well, it's good that you have a good, home country to root for in England. My home country, Ireland, might have a tough time winning this time around. It's going to be really hard for them, actually. But hey, regardless, I'm excited to push my ethics and morals down the road for another month to watch this World Cup taking place. And everyone knows the stories about it. But regardless, hey, can't wait. And if you want to wager some unders on Spain, betonline.net, if I could be a company man really quick, is the place to do that. Graham Couch, cannot thank you enough for God, taking time out of a week that really doesn't have a lot of time on your end. So can't thank you enough, man. What's in the hopper? Just whatever happens on Saturday after the game?
Yeah. I mean, it's a Friday night basketball game, Saturday football, and then I'm off to Portland next week for the basketball. So that'll be a lot of fun. Love that city and love that tournament.
That's what I'm talking about. And gang, hey, we will be back. Of course, we're going to react to this Villanova game. We're going to react to the Indiana game as well. Get you ready for next week. And also, hey, next week, Robbie Hummel joins the show. That's going to be a certified hoot and a half. Keep it here. Let's have a great weekend. Again, let's try to mix in a water if you remember. But hey, love you all. Let's go. Go Green.